member Robert Rotberg. As the Gun Owners Action League points out, if this were passed, how would this actually be enacted? Is the town police department going to seize property from town residents? Are they prepared to do it? Are they prepared to spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees for the town of Lexington? They point out that the phrase, quote-unquote, assault weapon is a invented term. It is one that does not have a real definition. It is another way of saying guns I want to ban. The definition of a quote-unquote assault weapon in New York State, for instance, different than that in Maryland or California. And they tweak the definition as needed whenever they want to try to ban additional firearms. What they are talking about doing is banning commonly owned firearms that have not been used in any crimes in Lexington. But here's what the town meeting member Robert Rotberg actually had to say about this. He says, for all the obvious reasons, and because Lexington has first mover advantage and responsibilities, I have submitted a citizen's article to the warrant to regulate the manufacture, sale, and possession of quote-unquote assault weapons and quote-unquote large-capacity gun magazines within the town of Lexington. He said, my proposed amendment to Chapter 97 of the Code of Lexington Public Conduct would in no way affect ordinary gun or handgun ownership in Lexington. It would, however, prohibit the possession within town limits of quote-unquote assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles that have the capacity to accept large-capacity magazines. He says the proposed article would specify in great detail exactly what kinds of weapons and magazines were covered. Rotberg said, assault weapons do not include antique weapons. He says citizens of the town would still be able to bear arms, just not weapons of mass murder. Again, given the fact that semi-automatic rifles are not used in anywhere close to a majority of violent crimes, this seems to be a solution in search of a problem here. And Rotberg says, I've consulted with the selectman, the town manager, the moderator, and the chief of police. Everyone has been very helpful. And I love this, too. I will welcome your comments, criticisms, suggestions for improvement, and so on, but please, he wrote, as few NRA rants as possible. Oh, okay. So I will welcome your comments, but if you disagree with me, I'm going to call it an NRA rant, and I'm just going to disregard what you have to say. This proposal will, he says, I hope attract widespread support from town meeting voters and from citizens of the town. It is the least we can do. The least we can do. What's the most that you could do? Just out of curiosity, if this is the least that you could do, Robert, what's the most that you could do to, quote, try to limit harm in the town of Lexington? And how far, Robert, would you like to go, all things considered? Again, if you are a resident of Lexington, Massachusetts, you live in the area, you might check out the town meeting on March 21st. I have a feeling it's going to be a barn burner of a town hall meeting there in Lexington, Mass. Stick around. We've got more NRA News Cam and Company coming up right after this. Annette Walker, the 30 Cal gal, is going to join us. Talk about a violent evening in the jungle, a homeless encampment in Seattle, Washington, that apparently has been a problem for decades, and only now are we hearing the mayor of Seattle speak out about it. Stick around. We'll be right back with more NRA News Cam and Company right after this.
Here in Nashville, Tennessee, we are with Stuart Sage from Giotto Gear, NRA's Giotto Gear. Stuart, you got a really cool product here. Show it to us.
All right, well, Cameron, what we have here is our home defense cabinet. And the purpose of this cabinet is to take that firearm that you have laying around the house for home defense and lock it up so that children and burglars can't get it. You know, 2-minute national average for a burglar to get in your house and run around and find those things: guns, drugs, money, and jewelry. And the kids, obviously, we got to lock that gun up. So what we do is we take it and we hide it behind the wall in a cavity and in the mirror. Now, this is a latch system, so this latch just keeps little toddlers from playing with it. And I can come alongside my hand up and it'll open it up. That's not the locking mechanism. Lock's done through the fingerprint biometric system. So I take my finger and I put it in. I can put it into light here and activate it, and you hear that lock, and now it opens it up. So I can access my firearm. After 8 seconds, it's going to lock back up. Okay. So it locks up. Lights it up, recesses into the cavity really nice. You can also hook this up to your home alarm, so treat it like a perimeter, which is very cool. Yeah. Operates on a battery, smoke detector style, so it'll start beeping at you usually at 2 o'clock in the morning, unfortunately. Right. So, and you just replace the batteries and off you go, you know. So it's clean, simple install, do-it-yourselfer.
Oh, this is, well, maybe for some people, not do it myself. But so this is something that people can just order and do and just install themselves.
You betcha. So when it comes, you have a choice of a unfinished or a finished frame, and you can see it you like. It's drywall, so you just cut the drywall, install it into the wall, and you're done. There's no wiring, no electrical, self-contained. Yeah, truly do it yourself.
What is, of course, you know, we know that the gun business is booming right now. Does that also mean that your business is booming? I mean, it's got to be, I would hope it's a one-to-one relationship.
Well, sure. You know, a couple years ago was it when the NRA, membership grew by 1 million in that year. There's a lot of people that are very concerned about firearms and firearm safety and lock it up. And this is what this is all about. So we've seen an increase in interest, increase in activity. A lot of women are just really coming to the floor and saying, you know what, let's lock those guns up, Dad. You know, so.
Very cool. If people want to go online, find out more, buy some of this stuff, where should they go?
You bet. So go to nragiottogear.com.
I'm a mom. And just like millions of other women, that's why I own guns. We're responsible, we're law-abiding, and we're everything that makes America strong. Every day, we're willing to use a firearm to defend our families. But the media will never tell those stories. If a mom puts a gun to the face of a home-invading thug and makes him run for his life, the story gets buried. But if she's unarmed and murdered, the cameras will be at the scene before the police. It's time for moms like me to speak out. We are the majority. We demand the freedom to defend our families. And we challenge the media to tell the truth about our rights. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
I want a woman president, but I want an honest president more. I want someone who can place their hand on a Bible and swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution without telling a lie. Someone who believes in the integrity of that office. A president whose actions reinforce the moral lessons I teach my children. There are many powerful, accomplished women in both parties who meet and exceed that standard. But you, Mrs. Clinton, are not one of them. Your past is littered with shameful, dishonest behavior, decades of decisions that point toward your own power and fortune, not the best interest of women, the country, or the truth. There is no greater threat to my freedom than another dishonest president. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Welcome back to NRA News. Cam and Company, sponsored by Nosler. Update on the loose pig, by the way. She's back. She's hanging around the fence. Won't go inside the fence, but at least she is in the area. So Who knows? Maybe we'll have good news by the end of the program. Now, we've got the deal of the day, the hero of the day, good guy of the day, all coming up top of hour 3. But right now, I want to welcome to the program our friend Annette Wachter, the 30 cal gal. Annette, how are you today?
I'm well, Cam. I'm just trying to get over the SHOT Show crud that followed me home from last week. But other than that, I'm good.
I suppose that was one benefit of having to take off early. I got out of there ahead of the germs. It's tough. It's tough to be there for 4 days, shake all those hands, say hello to everybody, and not walk away with something. But hopefully,
hopefully, you obviously got away early enough to avoid the storms, I'm assuming.
Well, I got back in time to get stuck in D.C. for a couple of days, but yes.
Oh, no.
But at least I wasn't. The fellas, John Popp and Cameron Gray and Mike and Dennis, they had to fly into Charlotte and then drive from Charlotte up to D.C. So,
oh dear,
yeah. But thankfully, everybody made it back safe and sound, and that's the good news.
Good.
We were talking, and we've been talking with you about Washington State and what's going on there. And I saw this story last night as the mayor of Seattle is giving a televised address, primetime TV, talking about the growing problem of homelessness. There was a brutal crime in a area of Seattle known as the Jungle, Seattle homeless camp. 2 people were killed, 3 others were injured. And now you've got the mayor saying, Annette, well, look, this area has been a problem for a couple of decades.
Yes.
And clearly we haven't done enough. This is look, you've got your universal background check law that's been passed throughout the state of Washington. You've got the city of Seattle that tried to ban the lawful carrying of firearms in parks. They passed that tax on every round of ammunition, every firearm legally sold. All of these measures are aimed at the law-abiding gun owner, Annette, and here we have a problem, an area that has been known to be violent, a fairly lawless area, and an area that frankly seems to have been ignored by politicians, as the mayor says, for decades in Seattle.
Yeah, I'm a native here, so I have personally watched for definitely the last decade the increase of the homelessness, and so driving along the I-90 corridor and the I-5 corridor, that crossing area, and then towards the south Soto area where they were talking about the Jungle is, every overpass, every bit of tree is just a sea of tents and homeless camps. And I have never witnessed anything greater. I mean, it's really amazing to see, and it just keeps getting bigger. And I've seen over the years that the city, I don't know if it's because it's very liberal or they just they've ignored it, and they don't have any anti-loitering laws. And so downtown Seattle, you just feel unsafe walking around in certain areas that are very populated too. You get harassed, and it's mind-boggling to see that. In that Jungle area, no one goes near there. It's a very sketchy neighborhood, I guess you would call it. So it's painful to see that nothing has been done, and they keep talking about it, and they might bring some police into certain neighborhoods and step up the patrols, and it calms down, and then they cut out, and then it picks back up again, or they move to a different neighborhood. And it just seems the city will move these camps to other neighborhoods or other parking lots or things like that. But the Jungle is something that has been taken over. That's not a controlled environment. So it is a pretty sketchy thing, and it's unfortunate to see. And I don't know what the answer is.
Well, the Washington Post actually had a pretty big story on this, which kind of surprised me, given that 3,000 miles away from where this crime occurred. But they say frustration with Mayor Murray and other city officials has mounted over the past year as many Seattleites have complained about these cities' swelling ranks of homeless people and crime rates, which have risen since 2010. In some neighborhoods, residents have taken recently to hiring private security. Seattle resident Angie Gerard told the Seattle Times, quote, "The blatant lawlessness has been a whole new era." She complained of illegally parked RVs, open drug deals, piles of used needles in her neighborhood of Ballard. And she said there's so little response, so little the police, can and will do about it. And, and here's the thing. These are the real problems, Annette, right? These are the real issues. And yet we've got the political class in Seattle, again, aiming their attention and their vitriol and their efforts at law-abiding gun owners in Seattle.
Right. But I will probably be skewered for saying this, but I find it interesting that, not once in that article did they mention it's a gun problem. It's a crime problem. And I find it interesting that, in a lot of the big cities, for instance, maybe Chicago, that again, it's always a crime problem. And if it's gang on gang shootings or drug related, or in this case a homelessness area, it all of a sudden is a crime problem or a homelessness problem, not a gun problem. And it's it seems to be very selective when they choose to. They only call it a gun problem if it is in our schools or in the movie theater or in the coffee shop. And that I find very interesting, that the guns were not really mentioned in this article at all. And, why they're being selective on what shootings are crime problems and what shootings are gun problems.
Well, absolutely, and it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a gun problem when the soundbite solution that they're proposing deals with guns, right? When it's not, when the mayor says, well, what we need more safe lots for people who are living in their cars and RVs. We need to clean up the streets. Then all of a sudden, it's as you say, it's a crime problem. But at the end of the day, what it seems to me is that this is a real problem that the city. Look, probably going back more than just Mayor Murray, I'm sure that there are a lot of politicians in Seattle who have ignored this, who, as you say, they may not have an answer. There may not be an easy answer. There probably is no soundbite solution to be had here, but that doesn't mean that it's okay to ignore the problem and then say, well, let's focus our attention on quote-unquote gun violence by passing a tax for every round of ammunition sold.
No, I agree with you. And like you said, perhaps they didn't mention this article, but I'm sure that issue will come up. But and again, there's no proof that any of the control measures they put on us have obviously made a difference. So the guns are still out there. The bad guys still do bad things, and they still will, no matter how much control they're trying to put on us. And I don't think they're going to learn from this, but I just wish they would understand these facts and not, like you said, not try to hold the law-abiding gun owners down.
Well, I don't see things getting better if that's where their focus is going to continue to be. Yeah.
Well, we are those of us who are involved are trying our best to ring the bells in our state capitol and hope that these bills that they're trying to push through don't get pushed through.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Annette, I appreciate you coming on the program. Feel better.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Annette Wachter, the 30-cal gal in Washington State, with us here on NRA News, Cam and Company. Washington Post, again, talking about this murder in the mayor's speech last night, which took place while these murders were also taking place. Post says, in many ways, the mayor's speech seemed to anticipate the fierce debate that would be reignited by Tuesday night shooting. He asked Seattleites to set aside, quote, extreme rhetoric about who homeless people are and instead focus on how to solve the crisis. Now, he, again, doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how to solve the crisis. But again, the message from the mayor, a reprimand to Seattleites. Don't be using this extreme rhetoric about who homeless people are. Again, I'm not a Seattle resident. Don't know what people are saying in Seattle, but nowhere that I've lived have I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say to me that all these homeless people, all of them, they're just all criminals, drug crazed. I don't think that is an attitude that many people have. I don't think when you're talking about the homeless problem, you are talking about the individuals, their personalities, their disposition. I think you're talking about their homelessness. That's the problem. Now, there may be underlying issues we may again be dealing with mental health issues. We may be dealing with drug addiction issues for individuals, but likely not for the entire population of those who are homeless in Seattle or around the country. Mayor Murray, in his speech last night, said before the Great Recession, there were 13,000 children in the state of Washington who were homeless. Today, that number has grown to 32,000 children statewide. Says in Seattle alone, the number of homeless school-age children in public schools has risen to 3,000. He called homelessness a national tragedy, linked it to cuts to federal programs for affordable housing, substance abuse clinics, and mental health treatment. He said, we are in the midst of one of the largest heroin epidemics in our country's history. Addictions on the rise in every community across the nation, urban, rural, suburban, in New Hampshire, in Kentucky, and Oklahoma, and across the Pacific Northwest. We are. And again, I have to ask, why is it that there are so many politicians out there, like Mayor Murray, who want to talk about the need for sweeping gun control laws at a time in which our violent crime rate has been dropping for the last 20 years. We don't hear a lot of talk from President Obama on down about the heroin epidemic in this country. We really don't. You know, in Virginia in 2014, you had twice as many drug overdose deaths than homicides. Not gun homicides, homicides. Twice as many people killed themselves through drug overdoses, primarily opioid-based drugs, a lot of heroin overdoses, twice as many ODs as homicides. Our own governor, Terry McAuliffe, seems way more interested in talking about legal gun ownership in Virginia and the legal gun owners in Virginia, even though violent crime has been dropping in this state. Again, Richmond, Virginia, lowest violent crime levels in 45 years. Where's the governor? Where's the attorney general? They're out there trying to rescind right-to-carry reciprocity agreements with 25 other states. Meanwhile, you do have an epidemic, something that is actually growing worse. You have an epidemic in this country. We've talked with law enforcement on this program before about the availability of heroin, and in particular in rural areas. Now, you know, I think it's always been more available in urban areas, but in rural areas, it is becoming very easy to obtain heroin cheaply. We've got cartels who are, as law enforcement have told us, they're burning the marijuana fields in Mexico, and they're planting poppies instead. They're not interested in being the middleman anymore, moving heroin from overseas through Mexico and up into the United States. Nope, they're making it themselves. Because they found out that they can be the manufacturer and the distributor of heroin. Much like we saw with meth and the cartels moving into the meth business a few years ago. Now they're doing the same thing with heroin. And again, the priority for way too many politicians in this country who seem to be following the Bloomberg bucks, hoping to get those campaign contributions, seems to be on gun control. I'm flummoxed. I really am. Because when you look at the raw numbers, there's no doubt that the heroin problem in this country is an epidemic. Again, it is growing. Violent crime in this country. FBI says, yes, in the first 6 months of 2015, violent crime increased 1.2%. But the long-term trends for violent crime in this country show violent crime going down. There is less of it. Here is a growing problem that way too many politicians seem way too uninterested in. Unless and until it becomes a front page story for a day. All right, when we come back, after a quick time out here on NRA News Cam and Company, we've got more of the day's top Second Amendment news and information for you, including a legislative update out of Indiana to talk about. Stick around. We'll be right back with NRA News Cam and Company, sponsored by Nosler, right after this.
I'm speaking with Nate Hosey with Headhunters TV on Outdoor Channel. Nate, welcome to NRA News.
Thank you so much, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, thanks for coming by because, man, you're running around here busy. You got a lot going on. You got the TV, you got an album coming out. So let's start with Headhunters TV. What is it all about?
Man, it's been a blessing the last couple of years to be on Outdoor Channel and to have the support of the hunting family, really. And it's basically a reality type show that Randy Birdsong and we host the show, and we go all over the country, not necessarily trying to be the best hunters in the world, as much as we're trying to remind people how much fun hunting is and how much we love the atmosphere of what hunting is to all of us. Go out to those camps and spend camp with people who you've never met before, and by the end of it, you feel like your family, So we basically travel all over hunting anything from deer to turkeys to elk, whatever, and do our best to put together a quality television program that people can enjoy and know that we're out there loving what we do.
So it shows in the show that you guys love what you do.
Thank you.
So tell folks who haven't been out there hunting or thinking about trying it, what is it that makes it so much fun to you and so exciting? In other words, why should they give it a try?
Oh man, for me, we're in a tough time now, as you know. I mean, the outdoor industry, some of us, especially with all the different avenues of social media, a lot of times, you get some pretty aggressive people on there that are trying to put you down and stuff like that. But, we're all blessed to be a part of this family, the hunting family, and to be a part of this community. And for me, there is nothing better than the atmosphere of hunting. It's not about going out there and killing an animal. It's about going out there, respecting the animals, respecting God's creation, and respecting our rights as people to be out there and enjoy the outdoors. And for me, that's an atmosphere my grandfather, my dad, and all those friends of mine who brought me up hunting taught me, is to appreciate the simple things of the hunt, and every hunt you go on will always be a success. So for me, I think that you get out there in God's creation and just listen to the sounds of nature. I don't think there's anything better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're talking about people on the other side. They just don't understand it because they've never done it. And they don't understand what you just explained so well. I mean, we were talking a little bit. You grew up in PA.
Yes, sir.
I grew up in PA.
Awesome.
And whether you're from PA or from the West or the South, it's so much more than just going. It's great to go out there and take an animal.
Absolutely.
It's awesome, but there's so much more. There's the family aspect. There's the mentoring. There's the camaraderie. It's just part of the lifestyle, and people just don't. And what really upsets me, Nate, it's not that they don't understand it. They don't want to understand.
That's right.
They're
That's
like,
exactly right.
what is wrong with you that you have to do this?
And they don't understand how much of a deep, deep respect we truly have for the animals. They don't realize that hunters and, we're basically conservationists who truly care about the animals.
Yeah.
They can fight it and say all they want, that hunting is killing this and that. But in reality, it is truly respect. We eat what we take, and we appreciate the animals, with every ounce of us, for sure.
And that's one of the greatest untold stories that we need to be telling all the time. The best conservationists are hunters.
Amen.
Absolutely. Speaking with Nate Hosey of Headhunters TV on Outdoor Channel, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your music. What's going on with that?
Man, I'm pretty excited about what's to come here. The outdoor industry has been incredible in supporting me as far as a hunter. But now they're really starting to get behind this music project. It kind of happened by accident, but I've been out in Nashville working with some great folks out there and become friends with a lot of great people out there who are pushing me to put out my first album. So I'm going to give it my best, and I'm going to let it rock here in the next couple months.
So explain what you mean. How did it happen by accident?
A fellow out of Nashville just happened to, who works for a major company out there and deals with a lot of, big folks in the country music world, happened to see me playing. And, they brought me out there and hooked me up with some incredible writers who are also hunters. And we became friends. And, one of them who's been a major help to me his name is Red Akins.
Right.
And he's an incredible songwriter, possibly the best of all time in my opinion, but also an avid hunter.
Right.
And him and I have become great friends, and he's just kind of helped me out with the idea of the music project.
More of that camaraderie, more of that community. It's
exactly.
like, yeah, and it's people who hunt and who enjoy the shooting sports. They live the life. They they talk the talk, and they walk the walk. It's what they do, and it's what they love.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I hope that you got to get back in touch with us when the music's ready to go.
Yeah.
We want to know all about it. So, all right. So it's Headhunters TV on Outdoor Channel. How can people get more information about Nate Hosey and about Headhunters TV?
Nate Hosey, as far as myself, just my name on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, headhunterstv.com, or we also have Headhunters TV, Facebook, Instagram.
All right, Nate Hosey, Headhunter TV on Outdoor Channel. Music coming soon. Thank you so much for what you do for hunting and all the shooting sports, and thanks for being on NRA News.
Thank you, man. Proud to call you a friend.
Thank you.
Your first source for Second Amendment news and information. It's NRA News, Cam and Company. Also a brief pig update. Good news, the hog is back inside the fence. Abigail's little rush with freedom this afternoon has ended. She did get some fresh grass and lured back in by dinner. I told my wife she gets out again. Abigail's going to a bee dinner. Now, we've got the deal of the day, hero of the day, and the good guy of the day coming up at the top of hour 3. Also, Andrew Langer going to be with us next hour. And Christian Toto of Hollywood in Toto will join us on the program in hour 3. In New Jersey, anti-gun lawmakers not happy that Chris Christie has vetoed their smart gun legislation. Remember, the law right now in New Jersey, passed in 1999, I think it was, mandates that when a smart gun comes to market, that only smart guns can be sold in the state of New Jersey. And now the sponsor of that original bill, Loretta Weinberg, who's still a state senator, going back about a year, has said, well, okay, we're open to revising the law. Not repealing the law because it's a dumb law, but we're open to revising the law. And so the legislature in New Jersey passed a modified smart gun bill, which said that, okay, when a smart gun comes to market, you can still sell traditional firearms, but you would be required to also sell smart guns. Governor Christie vetoed that bill. Now, you've got continued efforts here to try to do something with a smart gun law in New Jersey other than simply get it off the books. NRA ILA reporting that even though the 2015 session is over, anti-gun legislators have already turned around. They've already filed a bill for 2016. This bill, again, simply takes the old law and says, okay, you can you still are required to sell smart guns, but you can also sell traditional firearms. Now, there's, again, no reason to think that this bill wouldn't be modified again or simply allowed to expire once smart guns were on these shelves in New Jersey. So this new bill is going before the Senate Law and Public Safety Committee. I don't even know if there's a bill number for it yet, but we'll be following along with Scott Bach, the head of the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs. I also saw another story out of New Jersey yesterday, a similar, I say similar to some of the cases that we've seen before, Brian Aiken and others who have run afoul of New Jersey's gun laws. This is an actor in New Jersey who apparently is now facing charges under the Graves Act for possession of a BB gun. This actor said that he was hired for an independent movie. I think it was called Gangster Vendetta or something like that. Apparently, the producers of the independent production did not get any permits whatsoever to film, and they were filming a scene that involved a car chase and a shootout while they were driving along the city streets. Well, again, the city where they were filming wasn't aware that they were filming. People in the neighborhood weren't aware that they were filming. So, as you can imagine, when a car chase and a shootout erupted, even a shootout involving BB pistols, calls were made to police. And this actor was arrested. The actor says that the producer and the director of the film have both left him on the hook. They're not helping him out. They're not even returning phone calls based on what the actor is saying. And so this actor is now facing a possible 10 years in prison for the possession of the BB pistol. Hopefully, and we're going to continue following this case as well, hopefully that 10-year sentence doesn't come to pass here. But you got to make sure, even if you're not directing a film like this, even if you're just acting, if you live in the state of New Jersey or you are in the state of New Jersey, you better make sure that whoever is in charge of even a theatrical production in which a imitation firearm is being used, you better make sure before you take possession of that firearm that the producer of that production has all of their T's crossed, all of their I's dotted, all of the permits signed. Because in New Jersey, you don't have a right to own a firearm that is recognized by New Jersey law. In New Jersey, everybody is banned from owning firearms, and you get some carve-outs. You get permission to own a firearm. You get permission to carry that firearm, which isn't really going to be given to you. And if you get permission to own said firearm, then you can take said firearm only to and from a range or a gun store. That's it. If you have a firearm, even again a BB pistol in your possession, in your vehicle, it doesn't matter if your excuse was, I forgot it was there, or I'm making a movie and you got to talk to these guys because they're supposed to have the proper permits. The law bans you from possessing a firearm or even an imitation firearm in those situations. And again, lawmakers in New Jersey, like Loretta Weinberg, seem way more interested in pushing quote-unquote smart gun legislation, pushing more gun control legislation, rather than actually getting smart laws on the books. Laws that actually respect the right to keep and bear arms of all law-abiding New Jersey residents, laws that would respect the right to, again, not just keep arms, but to bear arms as well. And you've got you've got a lot of good folks in New Jersey who are working hard to make the laws a little less insane. But they are fighting an uphill battle, and the laws are not going to change overnight. So again, if anybody is headed to the Garden State or you live in the Garden State, you've got to be aware that these are the laws right now on the books, and we've seen. Again, a lot of issues with these laws. We've seen Governor Christie pardon individuals for, again, bringing their lawfully owned firearm, lawfully carried firearm from Pennsylvania into New Jersey. But that's after the fact. That's after the charges have been levied. That's after the case has gone to trial, after the sentence has been handed down. And frankly, that is one individual who can issue those pardons, who could commute a sentence. That is not indicative of how the criminal justice system works in New Jersey. Meanwhile, again, with all of those restrictive gun control laws on the books, you'd think that New Jersey's violent crime rate would be a little bit better than what it is. But, Camden is still Camden. Jersey City is still Jersey City. Patterson is still Patterson. Trenton is still Trenton, Newark's still Newark. You've still got very violent communities, and frankly, individuals who are doing a lot worse than engaging in a unsanctioned, unpermitted film production. And frankly, a lot of those individuals, when they are arrested, when they do face charges, they're getting a lot less than 10 years behind bars for their crimes. So we will continue following what's going on in New Jersey with that case. I also want to let you know what's going on in Indiana, where the state Senate has passed a bill that would allow employees at the state capitol to lawfully carry their legally owned firearms within the building. The bill passed the state Senate, 13 dissenting votes on the measure. Right now, lawmakers can already carry in Indiana inside the Capitol. Law enforcement can carry inside the Capitol. But again, employees and staffers can't carry inside the Capitol. And so you've got supporters of the bill making the point that, look, if we can carry as lawmakers, why shouldn't our staff be able to carry as well? In fact, one state senator, I believe, said that he actually stopped carrying about 10 years ago because his staff could not. And he didn't think that that was fair, didn't think that that was right. So he just said, I'm not going to carry anymore. Senator Brent Waltz from Greenwood said he stopped carrying because it was, quote, completely hypocritical to allow lawmakers but not their employees to carry a firearm. So the measure, again, passing 36-13. And it now heads over to the State House in Indianapolis. We'll talk more about this piece of legislation. There are a couple of comments by anti-gun politicians that are worth noting. When we come back, though, we've got the deal of the day, hero of the day, good guy of the day. So stick around. There is much more NRA News, Cam and Company coming up right after this.
Speaking with Command Sergeant Major Patrick Valdez, he's retired, and he's now with Freedom Hunters. Patrick, thank you so much for being here, and we'll go right to the shot of what you tell us what you do, because this makes it a very big impression when you wheel this up to the set here. Tell us what's Freedom Hunters all about, and tell us about the chair.
Freedom Hunters, we're a nonprofit. We take all veterans, all wars, all branches, and outdoor shooting activities to include hunting, target shooting, trap, long range, whatever we can get the guy out. It started out with the Wounded Warrior program at Fort Carson, Colorado, and to get guys out of the barracks, kind of like what Healing Waters did. It's hunting and getting guys outdoors. When you get back from a combat environment, you want to go back and do the things you did before. You want peace, you want calm, you want quiet, and getting guys outdoors and gals is our primary mission.
So tell us about the chair you brought along.
The chair is an amazing device. It's the Action Track chair. It's an American-made. It runs 5 miles an hour. We can get guys, and I say guys meaning guys and gals, into places they can't get with a normal wheelchair. Little skinny tires, get stuck in the mud, stuck in the sand. We put them in this, and we can get them right to a blind. We can get them to a duck or a goose blind. We've taken them elk hunting, mule deer out west. We've even taken them fly fishing with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it can go into a little bit of water, not a lot.
Awesome.
It is battery operated. And it's just a great tool to get guys out. And it gives them independence. It gets the guys in a chair the freedom to get off the concrete and get into the snow, sand, dirt, whatever, and not have to worry about getting stuck.
So why did you do this?
You know, I started out as a patient in the program. I got injured in Iraq in February of 2007, and Freedom Hunters came to me and said, when they were really small, they said, we heard you want to go do something different. And I'd never been waterfowl hunting, so they took me, and that's how I started with them. So I was initially a patient in the program. Cool. Then I became a mentor. Now that I'm retired and have a little more time on my hands, I work as an outreach coordinator helping the guys out.
That's awesome. Talking with Patrick Valdez with Freedom Hunters. So Patrick, I was out at Camp Perry one time at the Nationals there, and I know exactly what you're talking about. There was another organization who worked with wounded vets, and they got them out hunting and shooting. Those guys just, it's what they grew up doing. It's why a lot of them got into the service to begin with, and they're just so happy just to be getting out there again and just being out with the guys. It's hugely impactful to them.
Well, it's an independence issue. When they get back, they're well medicated, they're being taken care of, they have all those appointments, and then they're like, I just want to go be by myself or get back into the wild. And especially at Camp Perry, it's a little sandy there.
Yeah.
And I've seen what wheelchairs do there, and they sink. And then all their buddies, usually 4 of them, drag them to the firing line. And I've been on hunts where we didn't have a track chair available, and we had to drag the guy in his chair up to a blind.
Yeah. So something like that chair can't be cheap. So tell me, I'm obvious you guys probably need support. So we've got about 30 seconds left here. Tell us about Freedom Hunters. How can people get involved? How can they help out?
FreedomHunters.org, first of all. Come to our site. Vets can register and to get on a hunt themselves. Landowners can bring opportunities to shoot. There's the Independence Fund that's available, and Action Track Chair has their own 501c3 where there are scholarships available or funding available to get a chair on your own.
Patrick Valdez, Freedom Hunters, thank you so much for what you're doing, and thanks for being here on NRA News. Please keep up good work and stay in touch, okay?
Hour 3 of NRA News, Cam and Company, starts right now. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. On the show this hour, Christian Toto of Hollywood in Toto, Andrew Langer from the Institute for Liberty with us. And don't forget, if you miss any of the live show, 2 p.m. Eastern on NRAnews.com, you can check us out on demand all the time on iHeartRadio, on the new NRA News Roku channel, and on Sirius XM's Patriot Plus app as well. You can find us there starting at 9 p.m. Eastern each and every weeknight, and, of course, midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific on Sirius XM Patriot 125. And before we get to our Hero of the Day, sponsored by AdCore Defense, our Deal of the Day, our Good Guy of the Day, I want to talk a little bit more about that bill that passed out of the state Senate in Indiana yesterday, the bill that would allow staff members and employees there at the state capitol to carry their lawfully possessed firearm there on the Capitol grounds. Right now, state administrative code currently prohibits firearms at the state office buildings with exceptions for law enforcement, judges, and lawmakers. But again, not their staff. The Indianapolis Star said Senator Greg Taylor, Democrat from Indianapolis, worried that a proliferation of handguns at the State House could put black Hoosiers at risk. He referenced recent high-profile shootings of unarmed black men across the country that have been caught on video. He said he once saw Senator Brant Hirschman's handgun during a legislative debate. He said, quote, "If you look like me, that's going to be a problem." I would like to think that that is not the case, but if, in fact, Senator Taylor is correct, that is not a gun issue. That seems to me like that would be a policing issue. Because, again, no matter the color of your skin, no matter the population density of where you live, no matter the political affiliation of your elected representatives, you as a law-abiding American have that constitutional right protected by the Second Amendment to keep and bear arms. It doesn't matter if you live in a gated community with no crime whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you live in the worst neighborhood in Indianapolis or Chicago. It is your right to keep and bear arms. We don't get rid of rights. We don't discard them or trash them or say, well, I don't think that I could exercise that right, so therefore, you know what, we shouldn't have that right. If that is an issue at the Capitol, and I don't know that it is, it's not a Second Amendment issue. The Indianapolis Star says at one point, Senator Jim Tomes, sponsor of the bill, and Senator Greg Taylor sparred over the necessity of the legislation. When Tomes referenced gang activity in Indianapolis, Senator Taylor said, "Do you think a gang member is going to try to come in here and take something from you?" Well, no, Senator Tomes replied. He said, Senator, I think you missed the point. He said, it's when they leave the safety of this building. But if this becomes law, they certainly would have reservations about coming in here with 200 people packing guns. You know, again, the line of questioning there by Senator Taylor. All right, so you really think that, we got a crime problem inside the Capitol? Maybe not. But we're not just talking about people being inside the Capitol, right? We're talking about people being able to go to and from their vehicles. Same argument we get about campus carry. Do you think that classrooms are really violent places? You have to defend yourself against an armed robber in a classroom? Probably not. But if that class lets out at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and you're walking across campus to your vehicle, or you're walking across campus to go back to your off-campus apartment, you're walking back across campus to go to your housing, yeah, you actually could be the victim of an armed robbery. Because we know that campuses are not crime-free. I'm guessing the Capitol complex is not crime-free either in Indiana or elsewhere around the country. Anyway, the bill, again, passing 36-13 in the state Senate. All 10 Democrats, 3 Republicans voting against it, but it now heads over to the state House. Now let's get to our hero of the day, sponsored by AdCore Defense. From WLKY in Louisville, Kentucky, where the NRA annual meeting will be taking place later this year. It's good to know that there are already individuals who are exercising the right to keep and bear arms there in Louisville. I imagine a lot. It was just before 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 26th, in a parking garage at 5th and Jefferson Streets, downtown Louisville. A woman walking to her vehicle. According to police, she was approached by a man who displayed a knife and said, quote, "Give me everything you have." The woman then pulled out her firearm and shot the attacker while she was in the parking garage, according to officials. Police said the woman then called police. The suspect taken to University Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, and the woman who acted in self-defense is going to be okay. We'll see if we can get any follow-ups from that story. Again, not a lot of information available yet, but hopefully we will get more information. But that woman defending herself from a would-be armed robber there in Louisville, Kentucky, today's hero of the day. Our deals, plural, of the day. First one from Channel 13 WSET in Lynchburg, Danville, Roanoke, Virginia. Yes, Virginia's violent crime rate is low, and it is getting lower. But that doesn't mean that we are crime-free. And unfortunately, Virginia is not unlike the rest of the country, where a lot of violent crime committed by a very small number of repeat violent offenders. Dominique Moss is now serving life in prison. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder several weeks after Sean Moss was found dead on 11th and Polk Street there in Lynchburg. Lynchburg judge called it the most violent murder that the city has seen. The prosecutor in the case, Chuck Felmley, said that Dominique Moss ambushed the victim, Sean Moss. According to court documents, a witness says Sean Moss had his hands up in the air when Dominique Moss opened fire. At one point, Moss stood over Sean Moss, kept shooting. Chief medical examiner says the victim had 17 separate bullet entry wounds. And after the shooting, Dominique Moss led police on a month-long manhunt, making stops in Maryland and Georgia. Police say during that time, he was getting money, rides, place to stay from 3 different girlfriends. The prosecutor in the case had pressed charges against the women, but they were dropped as part of a plea agreement. Prosecutors also dropped charges against Dominique Moss for a shooting that happened at a Food Lion in the Lynchburg area shortly before he killed Sean Moss. Now, police say that Dominique Moss wasn't even intending to kill Sean Moss. He was actually going after Sean Moss's brother, Keith. Not that it matters. In court today, as a matter of fact, Dominique Moss apologized to the victim's family. And he said, I'm a dad too. And I've made changes in my life. Hoping for some leniency from the judge, perhaps. But the judge said because of his long criminal history and the manner in which he killed Sean Moss, Dominique Moss was out of second chances. And when Dominique Moss heard that, his demeanor changed a little bit. It wasn't talking about him being a father. It wasn't talking about the changes that he's made to his life. In fact, he began threatening the prosecutor, telling Chuck Felmley, quote, if I had a gun right now, I would shoot that bleeper in the face. I would shoot you in the bleeping face, Chuck Felmley. Yeah. WSET says Moss, in addition to serving his life sentence, will also be serving an additional 2 years for punching a Blue Ridge Regional Jail officer in the face. And WSET doesn't say how many second chances Dominique Moss has had. Only that he's had a long criminal history and that the judge says that he has run out of second chances. I would think he would only get one second chance. After that, I would think it would be a third chance. But apparently Dominique Moss has had a couple second chances. And now, finally, a sentence that'll stick for today's first deal of the day. Our second deal of the day from ABC 13 KTRK in Houston, Texas. It was Saturday. Tyler Cockrell was on a lunch break. He works at Costco. He was approached by a guy, didn't know who he was. Man asked Cockrell for some money. Said he worked in the oil and gas industry. He says his car's been towed. Just needed a little bit of cash to get his car back. Tyler Cockrell said, okay, I'll help you, but I want to take your picture first, so just in case anything haven't know who you're. So he took a picture, and apparently as soon as he did that, Tyler Cockrell says the man's mood changed. He actually pulled out a gun and robbed Tyler Cockrell. Tyler said he told me to walk across the parking lot to the Bank of America. He told me to withdraw money from my bank account. Cockrell did withdraw $200. And when it was safe to do so, he shared the photo with his mother, Kate Poole. Kate posted the entire story on Facebook, and it got a lot of attention, about 4,800 shares. And the Houston police started getting some tips from residents there in Houston, identifying the man as Randy Anderson. And then yesterday afternoon, Anderson was spotted by police at a Kroger, quickly arrested, now facing charges of robbing Tyler Cockrell. Cockrell says, I'm definitely glad he's caught, so I don't have to worry about my personal safety. KTRK say that they've learned that Anderson has a, quote, long criminal history and has been in and out of jail for years. Those types of people is what makes me think he's sick and needs help. And maybe he is. And maybe he does. And maybe he'll get it. But it could also be that Randy Anderson isn't sick and doesn't need help. Could be that Randy Anderson is targeting very nice, outgoing people because he thinks they're easy victims. And it appears like the system has allowed Mr. Anderson to engage in this activity for a prolonged period of time on multiple occasions. So I don't know if the criminal justice system is going to get Randy Anderson help. I don't know if Randy Anderson needs help. But let's hope this time the criminal justice system makes sure that the good people of Houston don't need help from police about Randy Anderson for some period of time now. He is our second deal of the day. And our good guy of the day, from ABC4 in Utah, Kearns, Utah. It was Monday of this week. Police officers around the area were getting ready for, and it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. A woman named Kathleen Gassaw called 911. She smelled smoke. She said, I could hear a kicking noise. Opened the door. I started going up the stairs. I see the smoke spirals with ash on them coming down from the roof. A unified police officer was in the area. He was about to report to his precinct before heading to Officer Barney's funeral. Instead, he got in his police car and he responded to the distress call. There were also 2 West Valley police officers who were patrolling the streets of Kearns, filling in for unified police so that they could attend the funeral for Officer Barney. Those officers responded as well. When they got there, smoke was billowing out of the roof. All 3 officers entered that burning home. West Valley Police for the home. Fire crews were on their way. Released a body camera video from one of the officers. You can hear, you can't really see much because of the smoke, but you could hear the dramatic rescue, they say. One of the officers yelling out, "Hello, where are you?" And then you hear the voice of one of the elderly people inside the home coming from downstairs. Sergeant Trudy Cropper said, "We're going to try to